The more you cruise, the more you figure things out. But some of the habits that we build can actually backfire over time. Do you remember your very first cruise? I remember flipping through Cruise Compass like it was a gift that had been waiting to open. Every buffet felt impressive. Every show was like Broadway. And then cruise after cruise, something shifts. And you stop being amazed at all these little things and start becoming an expert. And you have strong opinions about the buffet layout, and you know exactly which elevator bank will get you there fastest. Your CPAS card has actual status on it. And most of the time, that experience, it's a great thing. But today I want to flip that around because some of the habits that make us feel like we know what we're doing are quietly stealing our enjoyment right out of our cruises. So let's talk about it. This is something many experienced cruisers do, and we have done it too. For years, and I mean years, we avoided dolphin excursions. Every time I saw them offered at port, I kind of mentally rolled my eyes a little, and they sounded cheesy. It seemed like a tourist trap, and it seemed like the kind of thing that people do when they don't know any better. And then Kevin and I decided to go on this excursion, and I genuinely didn't know what to expect, but what I wasn't expecting was the moment when I actually hugged the dolphin and it hugged me back, and it was that you could feel the skin touching you and it was looking right at you, and it was just an indescribable moment. That amazing creature that made me appreciate him even more. And we left that excursion with a completely different perspective than the one we walked in with. So it's one of those moments I actually remember, and we almost skipped it thinking that it was too touristy. So here's the reality. A lot of the things that get labeled as touristy are popular because they're genuinely worthwhile. The fact that many people want to do something doesn't make it less meaningful. It often means it's actually worth doing. So don't let your experience as a cruiser talk you out of something great because it seems too popular or too obvious. Now, let me know if there are any other things that you initially wrote off as touristy but ended up loving, because I'm looking for other things to try that we haven't tried yet, and I would love to get some ideas. This one I could make an entire video about, and actually I have a lot of content coming out on this because last year we completely changed how we cruise. For almost a decade, our style was incredibly consistent. It was Royal Caribbean, 7-day cruises, Freedom class or Oasis class mostly. We knew what we liked and we booked what we liked every time. Last year, we blew that up entirely and tried everything else. Part of this was personal curiosity, but also as a travel advisor who books cruises for clients every day, I needed to experience them myself. So when somebody asks me whether Royal or Norwegian or MSC is better, I can help them choose what's better for their trip. I sailed on Margaritaville at Sea twice, which was a completely different Jimmy Buffett-inspired experience. I went on MSC World America, which has that European feel, and it is nothing like what we've been used to. I went on a first solo cruise on Norwegian Aqua. We also tried Carnival, we tried Celebrity, and also we went back to some of the Royal Caribbean's smallest, oldest ships. I was on Granger of the Seas, Brilliance of the Seas, ships that feel completely different from the mega ships that we used to cruising. And I have to say that some of those experiences were unexpectedly wonderful, and I would recommend them without hesitation. Others were great to try, but I probably wouldn't book them again for my next cruise. But the thing is, I would not have known about this if we haven't tried it. And I'm not talking about just switching up cruise lines. For example, I've said for years that I would never go on a 3-day cruise because it's just too short. There's not enough time to experience the ship. We have to go on a 7-day trip or we don't go. And then guess what? We had a long 3-day weekend and we just really both needed a break. So I thought, you know what? Should we sit at home or should we go on a last-minute 3-day cruise? And I literally booked it 3 days before we left. We went on Allure of the Seas for 3 days, and it was amazing. And we've done now 3 more of these quick getaways since then that were only a couple $100 each. We would have spent more time eating out if we went to somewhere to Florida to stay at the beach. And I have a whole video about that. So the cautionary tale here is that sometimes When experienced cruisers say that they're getting a little bored with cruising, it's because they're bored with their version of it, and it might help to try a different type of cruising. This habit is something I'm completely guilty of, and I think many people agree that they're doing the same thing. It's trying to optimize every single thing about the cruise, knowing the best strategies, the best timing, and the best everything, and then sticking to the exact same plan on every single cruise. Now, when you're new to cruising, all these things are really helpful. Learning how to avoid lines, how to get the most out of your experience. I mean, it's smart. That's experience working for you. But here's where it can turn on you. At some point, the planning just stops feeling like a preparation and starts feeling like a second job. Many people end up not experiencing the cruise anymore. They're managing it the same way that they do every cruise. And then you layer on top of that you're managing it the exact same way every single time. I mean, we're talking about the same breakfast spots, the same lunch routine, same table location if you can get it. For example, I know the main dining room menu on Royal Caribbean like the back of my hand, and I know what I'm going to eat on the first night 6 months before we set foot on the ship. Now, when it comes to shows, we personally skip many production shows because we don't care just about the singing and dancing type of shows, but we'll find others that we like. So we think we know what we know, but sometimes things get surprising. Last year, when we were on Utopia of the Seas, our instinct was to skip the production show because we just thought it would be the same thing we've seen before. Last minute, we decided to go, and I'm so glad we did because it was completely different. The technology, the drone elements, the overall presentation, it was one of the most impressive things that we've seen. And we almost missed it because we assumed that we already knew what was going to be. So it is important to remember that ships change, entertainment changes. The experience you had on that same ship 3 years ago might not be the same experience as it is today. Let me know if you had the same thing happen to you, where you suddenly discovered that something you thought you knew changed in a completely different way. I'd love to hear about that. As you cruise more and more, you have to start deciding which cruise lines you are going to sail more on. And this is where that question of loyalty programs come really into play. It's not really easy to decide. I have compared loyalty programs across every major cruise line. As of right now, Royal Caribbean's Diamond status and above gives you the most financial benefit that you can calculate than any other cruise line that I've looked at. And I have calculated that we save on a 7-day sailing somewhere, between all the drink packages or drink vouchers, balcony discounts, Diamond Lounge access with all their specialty coffees, complimentary photos, priority embarkation, and things like special seating. It's usually around $1,000 in savings for two of us for a week-long cruise. So that's real money. At the same time, on other cruise line, the equivalent status might get you 10% off spa services or 50 minutes of Wi-Fi. I mean, it is a completely different type of benefit. So yes, if you cruise a lot, it is absolutely worth calculating what each loyalty tier is going to give you. But here's the flip side, and this is the part I really want to stress. Even Royal Caribbean's benefits, as strong as they are, may mean nothing if they don't match what you need on a cruise. For example, if you don't drink, if you like to stay in interior cabins, and you never buy internet Wi-Fi packages anyway, and you skip all the shows, well then most of those benefits are not gonna really be worth anything to you personally. And yet I see people turn down better itineraries, better prices, and experiences on ships that their loyalty line does not offer because they're chasing the points. They don't want to fall behind on those points. It's like a game almost. So loyalty should confirm that you're already in the right place. It should not be the reason you never leave. If you're staying loyal because you're genuinely loving the cruise line and the benefits are working for you, then that's great. That's exactly what loyalty is supposed to be. But if you're staying loyal because you're afraid to lose something, well, then it's definitely worth reconsidering. By the way, if you're getting value from this video, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. I would love to know that you're enjoying this type of content. All right, let's get back to it. Now, this brings me to one of the mistakes I made a couple of times that made me not like the cruise that I was on until I realized what I was doing and changed it. So for a long time, Royal Caribbean was our baseline for everything. And that's what we knew, that's what we were used to. So when we started trying other cruise lines, my instinct, without even realizing it at first, was to compare everything back to Royal Caribbean. It was always the same question. Is the food as good as Royal? Is the entertainment as good? Is the ship, or does the ship have the same amenities? And here's what's wrong with that approach. When you're on a completely different cruise line, having a completely different experience that cruise line was designed for, but measuring against something it was never trying to do in the first place, you're not seeing what that cruise line meant to be the best at. So what I had to learn is to ask a different question. Not how does this compare to Royal Caribbean, but what does this cruise line actually stand for? What do they do really well? What do their loyal passengers love about them so much? And because that is the whole point. Different people love different things. Norwegian has loyal following for a reason. There are MSC passengers that will only cruise MSC and they won't go to another cruise line. Carnival has people who will only cruise with them every time they go on a cruise. So when I stopped comparing and started actually experiencing, I learned a lot more about other cruise lines, about what I personally like, things that I actually value, and what makes each experience unique. So that constant comparison doesn't make you a better cruiser. It just gets in the way of the cruise you are actually on. Now, let me know if you can relate to this one. I love a good deal. I mean, I'm a travel advisor and I've been cruising for over a decade. So finding value is literally part of what I do every day. And there's nothing wrong with being strategic, booking at the right time, watching for price drops, knowing which promotions to stack. I mean, it all works and it's worth doing. But there's a version of this that goes too far. And I think a lot of people who cruise a lot, myself very much included, can easily drift into that category or that area without noticing it. I've caught myself standing at the pool bar, mentally calculating whether I was getting enough value out of my drink package instead of actually enjoying the drink in my hand. Which means I've spent more energy trying not to waste money than I've spent on actually enjoying what I already paid for. And that's where that strategy of beating the system can really backfire. When you're spending hours refreshing pricing pages and calculating whether you got the absolute best deal, going in there and spending an hour repricing something that dropped down by $2, researching every possible loophole, and instead of feeling excited, you feel stressed. And many people actually overthink and overstress about some things that are not even worth it. And I made a whole video about it that you can watch over here. Thank you for watching.